Another day, another CVE exploited by our favorite cyber adversaries. This time, the spotlight is on CVE 202342793, and let's just say, it's not getting rave reviews from the cybersecurity community. TeamCity, for those not in the loop, is the Swiss Army knife for software developers, handling everything from compiling code to tying it up with a pretty bow. But, plot twist, it turns out to be the perfect backdoor for our cyber villains to waltz right in. With all seriousness, the document aims to shed light on the critical cybersecurity threats posed by the exploitation of JetBrains TeamCity software. The ultimate goal is to enhance organizational cybersecurity postures, safeguarding against similar threats and contributing effectively to the collective defense against sophisticated cyber espionage activities. Introduction. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, U.S. National Security Agency, Polish Military Counterintelligence Service, CERT Polska, and the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre have jointly assessed by cyber actors known as Advanced Persistent Threat 29, the Dukes, Cozy Bear, and Nibelium, Midnight Blizzard, have been exploiting a vulnerability identified as CVE 202342793. This exploitation has been occurring on a large scale since September 2023, targeting servers that host JetBrains TeamCity software. TeamCity is a tool used by software developers for managing and automating tasks such as software compilation, building, testing, and releasing. A compromise of TeamCity servers can give attackers access to a developer's source code, signing certificates, and the ability to manipulate software compilation and deployment processes. Such access could be used to conduct supply chain attacks, similar to the compromise of SolarWinds and its customers in 2020. However, the current pattern of exploitation focuses instead on a limited and seemingly opportunistic set of victims. Key takeaways. Persistent threat. Discovered attacks have been a consistent threat to global public and private networks, engaging in cyber operations to steal confidential information and conduct foreign intelligence collection. Long-term targeting pattern. Over the past decade, there were shown a pattern of targeting that includes collecting foreign intelligence on politics, economics, military, science and technology, and counterintelligence. Spearphishing operations. Historically, the actors have focused on spearphishing to target government agencies, think tanks, educational institutions, and political organizations, aligning with their goal of collecting political intelligence. Exploitation of vulnerabilities. It has been known to exploit vulnerabilities to gain initial access to networks, deploying custom malware like WellMess, WellMail, and Sorafong, notably targeting organizations involved in COVID-19 vaccine development and energy companies. Supply chain operations. Expanded cyber operations include supply chain attacks, as evidenced by the SolarWinds compromise attributed to them in April 2021. Technology company targets. The technology companies were increasingly targeted, which could enable further cyber operations. The exploitation of CVE 202342793 in JetBrains TeamCity servers is a recent example of this strategy. Preparatory phase of operations. While the cyber actors has accessed networks of software developers through the exploitation of TeamCity servers. Opportunities for C2 infrastructure. Having access to networks of technology companies presents the actors with opportunities to establish hard-to-detect command and control infrastructure. Initial access, exploitation. The initial tactics used to gain and explore access within a compromised network, emphasizing the use of native tools and commands that are less likely to trigger security alerts. CVE 2023-42793 exploitation. This vulnerability allows for the insecure handling of specific paths, enabling attackers to bypass authorization and execute arbitrary code on the server. High-privilege code execution. The exploitation of TeamCity servers typically resulted in code execution with high privileges, providing a significant foothold within the network environment. Exclusive exploitation vector. The document notes that, based on the authoring agency's observations, there are no other known initial access vectors being exploited in JetBrains TeamCity at the time of reporting. Host reconnaissance. Host reconnaissance is a methodical approach that helps to understand the compromised environment by leveraging a mix of simple command line queries and more complex PowerShell scripts to gather a comprehensive view of the host and network. The use of basic, built-in commands indicates a preference for stealth and efficiency by utilizing tools already present on the system. Commands to gather detailed information about user privileges, group memberships, and domain affiliations were used. For network and service enumeration, commands were employed to enumerate domain controllers, list running tasks, and view active network connections. Windows Management Instrumentation Command Line, or WMIC, commands were used to query process information, demonstrating an interest in monitoring running processes and potentially identifying security tools or processes of interest for further exploitation. PowerShell commands were executed to perform more sophisticated queries, such as retrieving properties of specific accounts and listing services and drivers, showcasing the capability to use scripting for deeper reconnaissance. The reliance on native tools and commands suggests an operational focus on stealth and evasion, minimizing the risk of detection by security solutions that might flag third-party tools or malware. File exfiltration. These takeaways highlight the strategic approach to file exfiltration, focusing on files that offer insights into system configurations, development environments, and security practices. The targeted exfiltration of specific files could provide detailed insights into the host system's operating system, such as certain critical system files. This action likely aimed to precisely identify the system version, potentially as a prerequisite for deploying specific tools or malware. There is also known interest in exfiltrating files related to SQL Server installed on compromised systems. The exfiltration of specific Visual Studio files indicates an interest in development tools and environments, possibly for understanding development workflows or injecting malicious code into software projects. Additionally, executables and configuration files of patch management software were targeted, suggesting an interest in understanding or undermining the patch management infrastructure, potentially to maintain persistence or avoid detection. Interest in SQL Server. The focus on SQL Server environments within compromised networks highlights a methodical approach to selecting and exfiltrating data, which can provide strategic intelligence or facilitate further cyber operations. There is a targeted interest in SQL Server files, particularly DLL files associated with Microsoft SQL Server, such as those that manage core functionalities of the database system. This indicates a strategic interest in understanding the database management system, potentially to gain insights into data structures and schemas or to prepare for further exploitation. Additionally, PowerShell is used to compress these targeted SQL Server DLL files, which are then prepared for exfiltration. This method suggests an intention to efficiently aggregate and exfiltrate valuable data from the compromised system. Furthermore, the specific exfiltration of certain DLL files, such as secforwarder.dll, underscores the interest in obtaining detailed information from the SQL Server environment. This could be aimed at understanding security mechanisms or leveraging these files in future operations. Tactics used to avoid detection. The tactics used to avoid detection demonstrate advanced capabilities in evading detection and maintaining persistence within compromised networks, highlighting the need for robust and multi-layered cybersecurity defenses. One technique employed is known as bring your own vulnerable driver, which involves using a vulnerable driver to disable or kill endpoint detection and response software, as well as antivirus software. This is a sophisticated method to undermine system defenses. Additionally, an open-source project called EDR Sandblast is utilized to remove protected process light protection, which is designed to control and protect running processes from being tampered with or infected. For a subset of victims, code was injected into antivirus and endpoint detection and response processes, which is a stealthy way to evade detection by security software. Tools that are typically detected by security software, such as mimikits, were executed in memory rather than on disk to avoid detection. Further, vulnerabilities in various software, including Zabbix and Webroot antivirus, were exploited through DLL hijacking to hide the graphical Proton backdoor within legitimate software processes. The source code of VCPerf, an open-source application developed by Microsoft, was modified and used to drop malicious DLLs, including the graphical Proton backdoor, onto disk. To avoid network monitoring detection, covert command and control channels were established using cloud services like Microsoft OneDrive and Dropbox. Obfuscation techniques were also employed by hiding data exchanged with malware inside randomly generated BMP files, making the malicious traffic appear benign. Privilege escalation. The following actions demonstrate an intent to deepen access and control over compromised systems by obtaining high-level privileges and sensitive information that could facilitate further operations. The use of mimikits, a well-known credential theft tool, is employed to execute various commands aimed at escalating privileges within the compromised network. Specific commands executed with mimikits include enabling debug privileges, dumping credentials and sensitive information from the security account manager, and extracting plaintext passwords, hashes, pins, and Kerberos tickets from memory. These actions indicate an interest in accessing and dumping credentials and secrets that could be used to further compromise the network, maintain persistence, or move laterally to other systems. Persistence. The following points highlight the strategic approach to establishing and maintaining long-term access to compromised environments, using both native Windows tools and advanced techniques to blend in with normal network activity and evade detection. Scheduled tasks are employed to maintain persistent execution of backdoors on compromised systems. Depending on the level of privileges obtained, executable files are stored in specific directories on the compromised host, such as the Windows temporary folder, the System32 directory, or the WinStore folder. All modifications to create scheduled tasks are made using the shishtasks.x binary, a legitimate Windows tool, which helps to avoid suspicion and potential detection. To ensure long-term access, the Rubius toolkit is used to craft ticket-granting tickets, which are part of the Kerberos authentication protocol used in Windows environments. This indicates a sophisticated level of attack aimed at maintaining access through legitimate authentication mechanisms. Sensitive data exfiltration. The following points highlight a strategic and methodical approach to data exfiltration, focusing on obtaining a wide range of sensitive information that could be leveraged for further exploitation, maintaining access, or compromising additional systems within the network. One tactic involves the exfiltration of critical Windows registry hives, such as those containing system, account, and security configuration data. To accomplish this, the hives are saved into files using specific commands and then packed and staged in a temporary directory. PowerShell is used to compress these files into a zip archive, which is subsequently exfiltrated. In specific instances, the Sharp Chromium tool is utilized to extract sensitive browser data, including session cookies, browsing history, and saved login credentials. This indicates a targeted approach to gather specific types of sensitive information from victims. Additionally, the DS Internals open source tool is employed to interact with directory services, allowing access to sensitive domain information. This tool provides capabilities to access and manipulate data within Active Directory, which can be critical for understanding the network environment and planning further actions. Network reconnaissance. The following takeaways highlight a methodical approach to conducting network reconnaissance, utilizing both native and external tools to comprehensively map out the victim's network environment and identify potential targets for further exploitation. For network reconnaissance, a combination of built-in commands and additional tools is used, including a port scanner and PowerSploit. PowerSploit is a collection of Microsoft PowerShell modules designed for various stages of penetration testing and exploitation. Several PowerSploit commands are executed to gather detailed information about the network environment. These commands include listing computers and groups in the domain, retrieving user accounts and their attributes, and gathering domain and Active Directory user information. Specific user accounts, including those not requiring pre-authentication, are identified. Additionally, computer and user service principal names are listed. To avoid detection, additional tools like PowerSploit are launched into memory rather than being written to disk. This tactic helps evade security measures that monitor file system activity, making it more challenging for traditional antivirus solutions to detect the reconnaissance activities. Tunneling into compromised environments. The following points highlight the sophisticated use of tunneling to maintain stealthy and secure communication with compromised environments, leveraging both modified open-source tools and legitimate system utilities to evade detection. A tool named RR.X, which is a modified version of the open-source reverse SOX tunneler RSoxton, is utilized to establish a tunnel to their command and control infrastructure. This technique allows for secure and stealthy communication between the compromised environment and the attacker's infrastructure. Specific infrastructure used in conjunction with RR.X for command and control communications includes an identified IP address and domain. This information is crucial for identifying and blocking malicious traffic related to this campaign. The RSoxton tool is executed in two ways, either directly in memory or by using the Windows Management Instrumentation command line utility after dropping the tool to disk. The command provided illustrates how legitimate Windows tools are used to execute their malicious payload, a technique known as living off the land. This approach leverages existing system utilities to perform malicious activities, thereby reducing the likelihood of detection. Lateral movement. The following points highlight methods used to expand reach within a compromised network by utilizing both native Windows tools and modifications to system configurations to enable and execute lateral movements. The Windows Management Instrumentation Command Line, or WMIC, is leveraged as a tool to facilitate lateral movement within the network. This involves executing commands remotely on other nodes in the network, a common technique for moving laterally to other systems within a compromised network. For instance, a specific WMIC command is used to execute a process remotely, indicating the strategic use of native tools for lateral movement. Additionally, the Disable Restricted Admin key in the Windows registry is modified to enable remote connections. This change allows for the use of remote desktop protocol with restricted admin mode disabled, facilitating unauthorized remote access. The exact command used to modify the registry sets the Disable Restricted Admin value to 0, effectively enabling these remote connections. These actions underscore a methodical approach to expanding control within the network. Adversary toolset. The following points highlight the sophisticated use of custom tools and techniques for conducting cyber operations, emphasizing a focus on stealth, data exfiltration, and maintaining persistent access to compromised environments. A mix of custom and open-source tools and backdoors is utilized during operations, demonstrating a versatile approach to cyber operations. A key tool in their arsenal is a simplistic backdoor that uses cloud services like OneDrive and Dropbox, along with randomly generated bitmap image files, for data exchange with the operator. This tool can gather critical environment information such as active network connections, running processes, and user, host, and domain names. OneDrive serves as the primary communication channel, with Dropbox as a backup. The malware has hard-coded API keys and generates a randomly named directory for storing infection-specific bitmap files, with the directory name being re-randomized each time the process starts. The process for generating bitmap files for data exchange involves compression, encryption with a custom algorithm, and encoding of encrypted data within the lower pixel bits of the image files. To evade detection, the backdoor is wrapped in layers of obfuscation, encryption, encoders, and stagers. Notable variants include one that uses DLL hijacking in specific software for execution and another that disguises itself within an open-source application from Microsoft. A newer variant of the backdoor forgoes cloud-based services for command and control and instead relies on HTTP requests, using a re-registered expired domain with a dummy website to legitimize the communication channel. Its execution is split into a stager and an encrypted binary file containing further code. MITRE AT and CK tactics and techniques. This section provides a comprehensive mapping of the actor's tactics and techniques to the MITRE ATT and CK framework, demonstrating their sophisticated approach to executing cyber operations. During the reconnaissance phase, the actor gathers information about the victim's network topology and host software to aid in targeting. Initial access is gained by exploiting a vulnerability in internet-connected JetBrains TeamCity servers. Execution is carried out using PowerShell to compress Microsoft SQL Server files and the Windows Command Shell to perform host reconnaissance, leveraging arbitrary code execution after exploiting the TeamCity vulnerability. Persistence is maintained through scheduled tasks, SQL-stored procedures, and boot or logon auto-start execution. Privilege escalation is achieved by exploiting the TeamCity vulnerability and using a bring your own vulnerable driver technique to disable endpoint detection and response and antivirus defenses. Various defense evasion methods are employed, including obfuscating data with binary padding, masquerading, process injection, disabling or modifying tools, and hiding artifacts. Credential access is achieved through operating system credential dumping from memory and the security account manager, stealing credentials from web browsers, and forging Kerberos tickets. Discovery tactics include performing system owner or user discovery, network service discovery, process discovery, and gathering victim network information. Lateral movement is achieved through the exploitation of remote services and Windows management instrumentation. For command and control communications, dynamic resolution and protocol tunneling are used. Data exfiltration is carried out using automated techniques, existing command and control channels, and web services like OneDrive and Dropbox. Benefits and drawbacks. The benefits of the provided sources include several key aspects. Firstly, the information is likely obtained experimentally, providing a solid foundation for understanding the context and details. The sources offer detailed information about cyber actors exploiting a known vulnerability with worldwide impact, including the tactics, techniques, and procedures they employ, technical details of their operations, indicators of compromise, and mitigation recommendations for network defenders. Additionally, the sources aim to raise awareness about malicious activity and assist organizations in identifying, protecting, and mitigating potential threats. They also provide actionable recommendations for organizations to improve their cybersecurity posture based on the observed malicious activity. However, there are some drawbacks to these sources. The use of technical language and jargon might make them difficult for non-technical users to understand. The focus is specifically on cyber actors exploiting the JetBrains TeamCity vulnerability, which, while valuable, may not encompass the full range of potential cyber threats that organizations should be aware of. As the cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving, the information provided may become outdated as new vulnerabilities and threats emerge. Lastly, the sources primarily focus on the impact of the vulnerability on the United States and its allied countries, which may limit the applicability of the information for organizations in other regions. Benefits and drawbacks. While the actors benefit from access to sensitive information, persistent access to compromised networks, and the expansion of their cyber capabilities, the exposure of their tactics, techniques, and procedures, increased awareness and defenses among targets, potential for attribution and consequences, and collaboration among cybersecurity agencies pose significant drawbacks to their operations from the National Security Agency's perspective. Actors' benefits. Access to sensitive information is achieved by exploiting the JetBrains TeamCity vulnerability, which allows access to software developers' source code, signing certificates, and the ability to subvert software compilation and deployment processes. This access can be leveraged to conduct supply chain operations and gather sensitive data from targeted organizations. Persistent, long-term access is ensured through tactics such as escalating privileges, moving laterally, and deploying additional backdoors, allowing for ongoing intelligence gathering and potential future operations. Evasion of detection is accomplished by employing various techniques, such as using legitimate Windows tools, obfuscating data with binary padding, and hiding artifacts, which help maintain presence within compromised networks. By targeting technology companies and software developers, the actors expand their cyber capabilities and potentially gain access to a wide range of organizations through supply chain compromises. NSA's drawbacks. The exposure of tactics, techniques, and procedures through detailed analysis in the Joint Cybersecurity Advisory reveals specific tools, malware, and attack vectors. This information helps organizations better defend against operations, but it forces the actors to develop new tactics, techniques, and procedures. Increased awareness and defenses result from the public release of information about the exploitation of the JetBrains TeamCity vulnerability, raising awareness among organizations worldwide and potentially leading to increased patching and hardening of defenses, making it more difficult to successfully compromise targets. The potential for attribution and consequences arises as the attribution of these cyber operations by U.S. and allied cybersecurity agencies may lead to political, economic, or legal consequences for the country involved, depending on the impact and scale of the operations.